you don't sell anymore from there on. Whereas here it's very predictable what's going to happen. This may go up, may go down. Also, these customers with later side you sign up for a full year. So as soon as you sign up, you're tied in for a full year. So I know that by 2013 I'll be making 750 euros because times 12. So then, and maybe I lose 1 or 2 customers by the end of that period. But then, of course, it's still going to be like this. So it's going to be a lot more stable than your traditional model, where every month you have to hope to sell. And of course, you can make huge leaps, but also some months you maybe don't make any leaps. Do you have a question?
Yes, you have always possibility that some customer joins in the middle of the year, of course.
Oh, of course, yeah. So then it gets a little bit, Well, I was trying to show the predictability. How easy you could say, okay, this year at least we're going to be making this much money. In a minute, I'll show one problem with the SaaS model, which is quite interesting, and that's the cost of acquiring a customer. So with Ladyside, if a customer pays 75 euros a month, that's great. But if I first have to pay maybe 500 to obtain that customer, well, then it gets really interesting, because then I need more money than I can to grow. I need more money than I get in. That's an interesting one. Well, improved customer relationships. One of the things, of course, that you can track much better what your end users are doing. There does exist, of course, the concept of software operation knowledge. So did you know how your software performs in the field? But in the case of SaaS, you can constantly I can go on my server right now and see how big the load is. I can see how many people are using Ladyside right now, whereas I can't see how many people are using Exact Compact or Davilex A2 Racer, to mention just any game. And protection of IP, so you're sure that whatever, it's very hard to copy a SaaS product. You can copy the whole business model, but a customer is not interested in that. The customer is interested in, hey, I need that program, it's 1,000 euros, I just copy the CD and type in the same code, and maybe I can get away with it. So it's a very different way of, you really have to hack the SaaS service if you want it for free. Alright, so SaaS adoption 2005, so you can see this is probably a little bit outdated already. So you can see 31% using, 34% considering, and 35% not considering. I think there's nobody who's not considering anymore. Maybe a crazy small bank or something, but otherwise not too many. And I think the 75% is people using it right now. Of course, what I like about this data, it can be completely, you can influence this data very easily. Because it could be that, okay, what if a company is using Moneybird? Moneybird is very small, It's you could say, oh yes, of course we use SaaS, but it's only one little product. Of course, the question becomes interesting when you say we're running on Salesforce, and everything we do, every product we make, every time somebody goes to the bathroom, it's registered in our Salesforce. Then you're talking. Well, when you expect to adopt SaaS, everybody's saying at some point we will. So many reasons to do it: greater ROI, lower staff support. You do not know how much the group of system administrators are hated. How much people in companies go, oh, we hate our system administrator. And vice versa, how much system administrators hate the part of their job which is just simply maintaining the products and keeping them up and running. Of course, he has much more interesting things like buying new equipment and giving people new iPhones and saying, hey, people, you all now have iPhones. It's a lot more fun than installing SAP and hoping that it keeps running. And when it crashes, they get a call in the middle of the night and they have to fix software that they did not build, which of course is annoying. Improves applicability, reliability, and performance. Well, reliability, also a big issue. I think in any SaaS situation you'll have more reliability than hosting it at home, even if you think otherwise, but I really have the feeling that that works every time. Easier deployment, systematic updates and upgrades, so that also saves you a lot of money, so that's also packaged in these other. So again, very important question that I could ask on the exam, but these two slides are a little bit similar to each other. Alright, so let's talk a little bit about SaaS startups, just to give you an idea of how it goes. I probably will illustrate with Ladyside, because that's what I know about. So one of the things I'm going to talk about here is also cash flow. That's something that's really important. You want to have money in your account. And well, we'll talk about that later as well. So one, understand your business objectives and definition of a successful outcome. Well, that's true for any business. But of course you can imagine that, well, let's say tomorrow, I think I saw a nice example of this. Yeah, let's say we all come up with a very nice business. And that business solves a problem. I think I still remember. Food on the table. So this is a free business where you can sort of save money by planning your meals ahead of time. So you can start meal planning, you do a weekly meal plan, you have fast recipes your kids love, savings at your grocery store, organized grocery list, and a stress-free mom. So this is sort of their quick picture of... Now, in terms of ideas, really cool. I could use this. I would be very happy to use this. In terms of return on investment, where do they make the money? Well, I think that's a very interesting problem. I think, of course, you can do something with coupons, and they probably have their business model figured out. But I think so here, going back to my presentation, hopefully, at some point. This game. A definition of a successful outcome. Well, in this case, I wonder, what were they thinking about the successful outcome to free their own moms of stress? Or were they actually thinking about a business model? I don't know. Well, select your staff and your services delivery team. So, of course, you need your people. So I will pick everybody in this room because you guys are smart. Define and understand your infrastructure needed to deliver your SaaS application. So you can imagine, think about, for instance, Spotify, or Netflix is maybe even a better example. Netflix is Spotify for movies and TV. I use it in the States all the time. It's really great. It's like a YouTube with good content. And but imagine how hard it is on, let's say, any Sunday night when half the country is using your service to download television. So that's, we're talking about, what is it, 300k per second, or what, 100, between 50 and 300 kilobytes per second. So you need huge bandwidth to facilitate this. So that's, of course, what we're talking about here. In the case of the latest site, it's just running on 3 servers and one fallback server, and that's it. And we have other sites running on the same server presently as well. So it can be done. Let me see, well, your hosting facility into the service providers, wherever you want to do it. In some cases, it's really important. So imagine you're at the postcode loterij, then it might be very interesting to go with Amazon Web Services, because Amazon Web Services sells you time, and as a postcode loterij has for one time a month for like half an hour, they have a huge number of visitors, and then the rest of the month it's just stable. So in that time, it'd be very nice to have some flexible, that you can handle 1 million requests, whereas other times you can only handle a couple. Let me see. Yeah, procure it, buy all this stuff, ready to run, deploy it, implement disaster recovery, integrate a monitoring solution. So very important, like I was talking before. You want to know how many people are on my service now, how many people are satisfied, how many crashes are happening, bugs are being reported and found. Establish a network operations center, client call center, and ticketing system. Well, these are all, so if you guys want to start a SaaS company, do it this way. Design and manage your service level agreements. With latest site, I was quite surprised when my first customer said, yeah, please send us a contract. And I wrote the contract myself on maybe half a page saying, well, I promise to use this software in a fair way, and blah, blah, and blah, blah. And I sent it to my first customer was a law firm, and they looked at it and they said, yeah, okay, now make a real contract. So I contacted a legal guy, and the contract ended up being, I think, 26 pages or something. So that's where this part goes. And there's questions in there that you probably thought about but didn't really think about. So in my case it was, okay, what happens if your company goes bust? What happens to our data? Very interesting question. What happens if your company decides to up the prices by 50%? Can we just quit, or what happens then? Of course you can't just change prices, even though our mobile operators do it all the time. Yeah, document and manage. Alright, so here are some exam questions. I think most of these are, well, I predicted them already. What is the XP business model and why has it not been very successful? So a guy with the curly hair who is now paying attention.
I still don't know.
You still don't know? Okay, that's very important. Can anybody help us? ASP?
Multiple instances?
Yeah. Yeah, so you're running multiple instances maybe for separate customers. And why has it not been very successful? Well, I think that's...
Well, usually either companies need to have their own servers or they need a third party to use money on a third party as well.
True, so the business model is not very profitable, that's one. And also it doesn't scale very well. If you're running 1,000 exact synergies, then there'll be so many problems and so many mistakes, and well, you have to make sure you automate it all the way through.
By the way, just wondering, is it difference between SaaS and ASP? Isn't it a problem for like banks and insurances and companies that are very sensitive on security
Yes.
to use SaaS instead of ASP?
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, so what he says there is actually a very interesting point. What the banks and insurance companies or other companies like defense, what do they think about? Where is their data located? What about uptime and things like this? And these are all concerns to companies in such a way that they might even say, okay, we are going to host our products locally, simply because then we are in charge of our data. And of course we know we have our faults, and yeah, the server room is always locked with 7 doors, but there's a back door for where people always stand outside smoking, and that door is always open. So you know, there's all these kinds of problems, but we are aware of that, and still we choose to host it here for a whole bunch of reasons. And this data problem is much more, well, it gets very extensive, because there's another problem where if you host your data with Amazon, that's automatically hosted in the States, or maybe Amazon has multiple locations, but and when it's hosted in the States or under the supervision of an American company, then the government, under the Patriot Act, can always get access to that data. So if you're a Dutch defense organization, you are never going to do anything with SaaS with an American company, and since 90% of the companies are from the States, you can imagine that gives some extra challenges. So, yeah.
I think for some companies at least, it's not even allowed to use SaaS because they are obliged to use to keep the data in their own company.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, and of course there's solutions to that as well, where you say, okay, we have a trusted server, and their SaaS solution can have access to our database, which is located here. At the end of the day, you can virtualize anything, and, you know, move, but you can physically make sure the server is your location. Yeah?
Yeah, but banks wouldn't use ASP as well, right? For the same reasons.
Yeah, that
It's
depends.
also hosted at a third party.
Yeah. I can tell you about a nice little startup called Schubert Fides, which is now one of the largest hosting companies in the Netherlands. Schubert Fides is one of those companies that says we guarantee 0.0001% downtime, and probably less. And we make sure your data is always secure, and this company does actually have customers like banks and insurance companies. You pay the highest price imaginable, which is also why this company is so successful. Now what's really cool about Schubert Fides is that I say Schubert Fides, it sounds a little bit bankish, it sounds a little bit, at the risk of sounding again racist, a little bit Jewish, it sounds a little bit trustworthy, it sounds like a company that's been around for hundreds of years, and Schubert Fides is 8 years old. So it's, they've done a really good marketing trick there. So what are the benefits of SaaS for vendors of software? Well, this could just as easily read what are the benefits of SaaS for customers of software. And I think you've all seen the table, so I'm not going to repeat it. But the answer to this is right here. Okay? And how does one start a SaaS business, and what are the main considerations? Well, I'll be asking that on the exam as well. All right, moving right along. So if you want to start a SaaS business, well, here are some nice considerations, points that you need to know. So it takes 70 to 100% more capital to fund a SaaS company to break even than a traditional perpetual license company. It also takes 2 to 3 times longer to get there. And this, of course, has everything to do with, these very nice graphs that I drew, and then this crappy graph that I drew later. But you can imagine that, well, like I said before, here you have €1,000 cash flow immediately. And here you start with €10. So Moneybird took a very long time to start being profitable, or is still probably not profitable. Well, they know they're going to be profitable, because that's where the predictability comes in. They know that with the same growth, if they don't do anything, they will keep making money in a fairly reliable way. I've heard this about many other companies as well. Yes?
From who is the code?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I don't remember. I stole this from a slide deck, which was stolen from a slide deck. So I don't quite remember. But I think I may have the attribution. No. Let me think. I think it was an investor. There was a guy who invested in SaaS companies and who was saying things like these, but not just your average one, like the CEO of Oracle or something. Yeah. So average of 35 million in venture capital versus 20 million. You can imagine this is very states based. 6 to 7 years to break even. Well, of course, public equity markets pay 10% to 20% premium for predictable revenue streams. So this is, of course, what I was just talking about. That if you have a SaaS company, you know that your revenue for the following years is going to be this. If every year you have an attrition of 2%, you have a growth of 4%, you know your profit is just going to go up. Attrition is an important word here. I don't even know the Dutch translation, but it's verloop, I guess, in Dutch. So the customers you lose on a yearly basis. And for SaaS companies, generally it's quite low. You can imagine for Ladyside, people have their whole list of members on it, they have their website on it, they have their content, their files. To get all of that out and transfer to a different provider for a couple of euros, it's not interesting. So people will stay with Ladyside hopefully for years and years and years to come. And the same is for Moneybird. All your invoices are in there. You've already integrated in your way of working, so you'll keep working like that. Well, SaaS companies move faster than big companies. They can introduce features instantly versus waiting for the next major release, which can take years. SaaS requires an architecture that supports end-user customization. Very important. We'll talk the next hour about that. Industry standards are critical for interoperability. So there's, of course, this concept of vendor lock-in. I haven't told you so much about it yet, but like I said, people are now locked into Ladyside. So my customers, I have to treat them well, but I can also start squeezing them if I want to. Because what are they going to do? Move to another company? That's going to take a lot of time, a lot of effort, and so I can slowly but surely, if I wanted to, start squeezing my customers. Well, and of course you know about this, steady-state business models, 15 to 18% for engineering, and 30 to 35% for sales and marketing. Okay, so before we go to the break, I'll have one quick figure, and I think I already kind of made it clear. This can definitely go. So I talked about, so let's talk about cash flow. So, like I said before, you guys have no idea yet, or maybe some of you do because maybe you have your own company, but how much money makes the world go around. And imagine you're a startup, and you have 1,000 euros in your account, and it takes 100 euros to obtain a customer. And by 100 euros, I mean Google AdWords, I mean visiting the customer, I mean whatever goes into selling your product, doing presentations and things like that. So let's say you're at 1,000 today, and let's say you make 100 a month per customer, but it takes 500 to get a customer. So immediately you can only get 2 customers, because well, you will get the first one, and then you get the second one, and then you're at 0. Of course, actually not at 0, you're going to be at 100 because you got 100 from that. So now you can't obtain another customer for maybe, well, let's say you now have 2 customers, so now you need to wait another month, so you go up 200, and then you're up to 500 again. And then you can get your 3rd customer. So you're constantly doing this balancing act of trying to have the money. Now, there's different ways to go under this, of course. Can somebody tell me what are ways to speed this process up? How do we get the line higher? Or how do you get a loan? A loan, yeah, very good. So you have to do a loan. You have